friends, Jennifer Roman back with another CC Arts art tutorial, and today we are going to make a watercolor color wheel umbrella painting. So the first thing we're going to do is I have a piece of, it's like cardstock. I think it might be a piece from a packaging of some sort. So you could use a piece of cardboard from a cereal box or a cracker box, cookie box, or you could just use some thicker paper, anything you have on hand. And this is cut to 10 inches. Now I'm working with paper that is probably 11 by 14. So if you're working with a smaller sheet of paper, then cut your strip smaller. But as you can see on the sample, we want the umbrella, the color wheel, to be the focal point of the artwork. So I'm going to take my strip and center it widthwise and approximately an inch or two from the top. And I'm going to draw a line. And I'm going to add a dot. I've marked this strip at the center. That way I know where my 5-inch point is, because this color wheel has 7 segments. So we're going to want to make one side, and you can see I'm a little off center, but you know what? That's okay. It does not have to be perfect. It just has to be your best. This color wheel has 7 segments, so we can't just do even and half again and half again, or we'll have 8 segments. So on the one side, I'm going to line up my line at the center of my measuring sheet and the dot, and I'm going to sort of eyeball estimate for 3 wedges from the dot to the edge. And now I'm going to line it up again and eyeball it and go from the dot to the edge. Doesn't have to be perfect. So now I have 3 segments on that side. Now this side's going to get 4 segments. So I'm actually going to line it up and go straight across. Now I have 2 segments and 3 segments. So these I'm going to split in half. So again, I'm going to line up my mark and go approximately in the middle. It's okay if you don't get it exact. And I'm going to freehand go over that just because it looks like my pen didn't quite make contact with the paper the entire time. And then one more time, I'm going to approximate the center of this wedge and trace. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sections of pie, or sections of the umbrella. And on the color wheel, we would have red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. So there we have our full array. Now at this point you can decide if you want to have a round umbrella, or if you want your umbrella to have kind of like curved lines so that it looks like where the spines end are kind of peaked. So since I did this one round, I'm going to do this curved. And again, this does not have to be perfect. It just has to be your best approximation. And now coming out beneath the umbrella, we're going to have the body of a person wearing a raincoat and rain boots. I'm going to do this upside down so you guys can see. So if it looks goofy, you have to be a little bit forgiving. And this shape is kind of like the bottom part of a triangle or a slightly angled rectangle. And on one side I'm going to make another line. That's sort of like the placket where you button the raincoat. So I'm also going to make some polka dots for the buttons. Now we're going to make our legs wearing boots. So I'm going to make a line with a little heel and then a little curve. There's one leg, a line with a little heel and a curve or a U shape in the other leg, and then make two lines to show where the top of the boots are. And because my girl is standing in a puddle, I'm going to add a wavy, organic puddle shape going all around her legs. All right, so that's our basic drawing. Now we're going to start our painting. So we'll start with our red. I'm going to work with a dry brush, so I am drying my cleaned brush because I don't want the colors to bleed too much. Now when we're going red to orange, or you can have a little bit of bleeding where they meet because they would on the color wheel. And because I'm working dry, I have pretty rich pigment here. Carefully going up to those lines where the colors meet. Now, if you don't, I also used a permanent marker, and I'm using watercolors and watercolor paper. But you can use whatever paper you have on hand. If you don't have watercolors, you could definitely do this with crayons or oil pastels, colored pencils, markers. This would really go with just about any mark making material to do this project. And I was going to say, if you don't have the permanent marker, this would actually be great with a crayon for the outline, because then you'll have crayon resist, which will help you to keep your colors in the correct zones or quadrants of the wheel. Because I am not a great painter. You see that I take very careful strokes because it's not something I'm super confident in. But that's okay, I'm still just going to do my best, just like all of you are doing. So our next color is orange. I'm right now just using the standard Crayola tray. I will dip into my unbranded tray for the blue so that I can use the standard Crayola blue for my indigo, because the Crayola blue is pretty deep and dark, and I have a lighter, like a sky blue, in my off-brand tray. Carefully getting up to those edges again. Working with a dry brush also means less drying time, and since we are going to have a final step that is more effective with a drier paper, it helps us to be working with this dry brush. And I also, this was a little bit ago, but I pre-moistened my palettes with a spray bottle. I just like to do that so I don't have to drip one droplet of water at a time into each color pan. So I cleaned my brush and I'm drying it, and now I'm doing the yellow. So in the mnemonic device that I was taught when I was a child to remember the colors of the rainbow or the color wheel is Roy G. Biv, R-O-Y-G-B-I-V, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. So, which just made me think that I recently posted a photo on Facebook, because a lot of people have been posting pictures of their high school senior portraits, and I didn't have a portrait, So I posted a picture of myself doing a performance in a play, and at the point in the play where the photo was taken, I was talking about an indigo field, which is random and has nothing to do with this artwork, but it popped into my head when I was talking about indigo on the color wheel. So after our yellow, we're going to do green. Out in the indigo field. This green is a little too dry. Still super saturated with pigment, so I may pick up some water to blend this. Let's see how it goes. I really do love the saturated colors. I'm thinking about the color that I'm going to do the raincoat when I get to it, and I did my first one yellow and yellow boots because I was probably thinking of the iconic Morton Salt girl who wears yellow slicker and boots, but I feel like I'm going to try and do a tie-dye effect on this one. I wonder if it will work and I'll be successful. That's one of the things I really love about art, is experimenting. After green, we have blue. And in the color wheel, when we say blue, we're referring to a lighter blue, like a sky blue. So I'm going to use this one here. I hit the wrong section, but that's okay. I'll just blend that in when I get to it. Another thing you can do if you're working with the permanent marker and not crayon to use a resist is you can make those lines a little bit thicker after you initially draw them, just to kind of help you keep your barrier between the colors obvious. But I think it's okay if you paint over the black line a little bit, as long as your sections are nice and clear. And I'm just going to blend that out a little bit with my wet clean brush, like it's not even there. Now, of course, I did just wet this space a little bit, so it does mean that even with my dry brush in my indigo, that it's going to be a little looser, flow a little more freely, because this panel or quadrant is wet. So getting my indigo on my brush. See how you can see it absorbing into the paper? That's because I wet the paper first. We're almost done with our umbrella. Finish off this indigo section. And I showed you how you could pick up an unwanted color with a clean, wet brush. You can also sometimes do that with a clean, wet piece of paper. Like I went a little bit over the line there. I'm actually not going to worry about it because I'm going to add purple and it's going to blend. But if I wanted to remove it, I could take my paper towel and make it into a point and dip it in the water and just clean up that area. So our final color on our color wheel is the purple, or violet as we call it in the color wheel. Which always makes me think of Willy Wonka or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory when they say, Violet, you're turning violet. Oh, I think we're gonna get a poodle cameo, friends. Oh, nope. That was just a tease of a poodle cameo that time. All right, so now our color wheel portion is finished. And now I'm going to attempt the tie-dyed coat. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of make little polka dots to start with. And I'll do it on the boots too. Boots. I had lots of pink on my brush, so that's what I'm going with. Maybe a little of that violet. You can see when they touch, they start to blend into each other. Now maybe a little bit of the lighter blue. And now I'm going to drip a little water. See if I can just blot it and kind of blend it a little bit. It's kind of looking more blended than tie-dyed now. I'm going to go ahead and fill this in because I don't want too much paint going out of my lines. But maybe I can dry my brush and pick some up. Oops. So I'm still trying to pick up some of that paint there from close to the edges. Seems like that one section is really juicy down here at the bottom. I'm going to go back in over this top layer to add some of those colors I was hoping to have show up more. lot of people think purple's my favorite color, but it's actually green. It's that little blue. Kind of mess it up a little bit so it looks more tie-dye-y. And maybe just a little bit of turquoise. Let's see what happens if we add that. That looks more like a true green. My lucky day. All right, I think that's good for our coat and boots. I'm gonna add a little bit of this brown for a skin tone on my legs. And if you don't have brown in your palette, you can use a light pink or peach or any skin tone you would like. Or you could paint tights, and then they could be any color of the rainbow, too. And we need our puddle. Just going to do that with a real watery blue. And last but not least, we're going to add our raindrops. And we're going to do that by flicking our brush. Look, I got some purple in my puddle. I'm going to pick that up with my clean brush and blend it out. We're going to add our flecks of rain. So I'm going to get my brush really wet and drip some water in my blue. I'm going to hold my brush in my non-dominant hand, and I'm going to use my right hand or my dominant hand and just start to tap it. I'm not going to flick it at the person who's sitting opposite me on the table. I'm going to carefully direct it onto my paper. Maybe one more. I think that I need a little more water for this last one. There we go. All right, friends, so there we have it. We have our Color Wheel Rainbow Umbrella. I hope you had fun. Again, please show me your artwork in the comments. I would love to see what you guys are doing while you're at home. And see you later. Bye.